folks. How's it going? Come on, camera, focus. Autofocus. Click in. Are we focused? My eyes are a little out of focus. I'm here. This is a pretty good group here. Ask a Libertarian. That's me. I'm Mark. I'll be your Libertarian today. I could just pin this little mic on here. I'm going to get settled in on my monitor. Don't go away. It's going to be great. Hey, I'm running for president of these here United States. If we haven't met yet, it's Mark Whitney, markwhitney.com. I just want to click the lab on. I should have done this before I went live, except I forgot. So I'm doing it live. But hey, it's live, so who cares? So how we doing? Let me just get this other monitor over on the side here. Then I'll introduce myself to those of you who do not know me, and I'll be able to take your questions. Don't go away. I'll have this in a minute. I've never gone live on somebody else's page today, and I'm in here by myself. So just give me a second to. I got to pop up the windows so I can see the little hearts and flowers that flow up. You know. There you go. Now I can see what I'm doing. I've got a great big. I got a big ass Mac over here on my right, really big one. So I just want to bring this up full screen. I'm kind of a Windows guy. I prefer Windows. We could argue about that if you want, right? We could argue about that all day. So let's see. How are we doing here? All right, so this thing is settling in. There we are. There's some hearts and flowers and thumbs up and all that stuff. This is a pretty good, let me just mute the audio on this Mac over here as it seems to want to blurt out audio. There we go. Now we get settled in. I'm going to go over here and just kill this one window that's blocking another monitor I have in here. You can still hear me, right? So here we are. And we'll go back over here. I'm going to close this door right here. So I've got this beautiful studio. I'm coming to you today from my lovely studio here in San Diego. It's about 700 square feet. I do a live show here several days a week. So again, Mark Whitney, I've been running for president for several months for the Libertarian Party ticket. Let's see, this is not optimal over here, but we're going to do it. I think what I'll do is just leave the glasses on. I've got the LASIK. I can see the eyes of an eagle 200 yards away, but I need the glasses to see your questions. So let me, I'm going to get this optimized here. Get the mouse over here like this. Usually when I do a live shot, I've got a producer feeding me questions, but I'm doing it all myself. God bless you for all you do. Cried a lot watching this. What are we doing? New York celebrates. Okay, I gotta get on the page that has me on it. Stand by. I can do this. Public AMA with Mark Whitney. There we are. There we are. Give this a second to settle in here and catch up. I'll be right with you. All right, we're 3 minutes in and we've not accomplished a damn thing yet. We haven't solved any of the world's problems. Hey, I got a question for you. There, now I can see things coming up. Let's see. Okay, I want to be on the Ask a Libertarian page. I don't want to be on the Mark Whitney page. I want to be on the Ask a Libertarian page. I can do this. Yeah. Let me get this. Hang on. Ask a Libertarian. Hey, I got a question. I got a question for you people who are libertarians. Don't you have anything better to do on a Friday night than be here? Really? Think about it. Actually, you don't have anything better to do you? Because you can't go anywhere because we're living under an age of maximum government right now. There we are. Got the link. My son just sent me the link to Ask a Libertarian. We're going to get this. It's all going to be fine. Don't go away. You'll be able to ask a libertarian soon, and a libertarian will answer. And that'll be me. And my wife's trying to call me. Here, let me take a call from my wife. Hey, I'm doing Ask a Libertarian right now, live on the Facebook, so I got to hang up. I'll be doing it for like an hour or something, okay? Yeah, I'm doing it right now. I'm actually talking to you on the phone. People are watching me do it. Yeah. That's my family calling to tell me I have an Ask a Libertarian thing to do while I'm actually doing it. So when I click on this video, right, I want to see the video that's live. There we go. Okay. So we would like to welcome you. So it looks like really nobody's really in the room yet. But let's see where we're at. Do 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 do. There's a couple people in the room. Yeah. I'm not surprised there aren't a lot of people in the room, really, and I'll tell you why. Because it's Friday night. It's 8 o'clock on the East Coast. That's where half the people are. Here we go. Now we got to hook up. Why is the government lying about the amount of people dying of COVID-19? There's a question for you. Okay, you could have just stopped it. Why is the government lying? It's almost a redundant question. Why is the government lying? Are you telling me the government lies? Yeah, let me introduce myself. Mark Whitney. I'm CEO of the Law.net Corporation here in San Diego, a company I founded 20 years ago. I sell the law to lawyers, and I'm a high school graduate. I have no formal education. I went to a comedy college, and here I am running for president. Is this a great country or what, huh? If you haven't seen my memoir, Fool for a Client, go to markwhitney.com and click on memoir. You can watch it for free. It's 84 minutes, and it's a great way to spend Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, somebody you like, make some popcorn, get the Kleenex handy. It's a story about that one time 30 years ago when I represented myself facing 225 years in federal prison. And that's where I learned about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That's not when I became a libertarian. I first heard the word libertarian in 1982 when I was working in TV in Boston, and they had a talk station in Boston with 3 openly libertarian talk show hosts. They did 9 hours a day of libertarian programming, 5 days a week, 45 hours a week of libertarian programming. How about that? What do we got for questions here? I got a wife, the current Mrs. Whitney, I call her. We've been married since 1981. I turned 61 years old in 2 weeks. Julie and I, that would be my wife, the current Mrs. Whitney, the future First Lady of these here United States. I have known my wife since the 6th grade. Can you believe that? She had a crush on me in the 6th grade, which proves she had good taste even then. Let me see if we have any other questions. We're going to get right to this anti-government material here. We could take the night off from that. We could take the night off from politics. You realize the market for politics right now is drastically closed. I mean, on the one hand, it's a good time to be paying attention to the government. But on the other hand, a lot of our fellow citizens are choosing between things like oxygen and money. You want oxygen or money? Which do you want? You can't have both. That's actually the truth for a lot of people, right? So if you're in a position where you've lost your job, you're not going to be able to pay the rent. You're not going to be able to buy food. Walmart is looking to hire 150,000 people. They normally pay $15 an hour, right? And now they're throwing in another couple dollars an hour if you choose money over oxygen, clean, virus-free oxygen. Is the Libertarian Party the last refuge for those out there that are realizing that even Republicans are racing towards socialism? How do you plan to effectively leverage that situation? Well, there are going to be great opportunities for libertarians on the other side of this so-called new normal. In the last 30 days, the government has increased the federal budget by 50%. Imagine that. Increasing your budget by 50%. That's an amazing number when you consider that before the virus, the government cost $400 a week per household to operate, and it only collected $200 a week. The other $200 it borrowed by printing pretend money. So before the government increased the budget 50% in 30 days, before it did that, before it increased the budget by 50% in 30 days, it was collecting only 50% of what it needed to operate. I'm not sure how that math works out, but I've said that as president, I will not sign any budget where there's borrowed money involved. Not going to do that. And so the government collects $200 a week. I think $100 a week is about right for the federal government. So whatever government you can get for $100 a week, right? That's all the federal government you get. So I want to cut it by 75%. That's not radical enough for a lot of libertarians, but I think it's a story. I'm a storyteller. I like to tell stories. I think if you're going outside the libertarian bubble as the libertarian presidential nominee, and you have to talk to a diverse group of people. Let's say I'm on Kimmel, right? And we've got, I think Kimmel's studio holds, about 150 people, something like that, right? And it's just 150 people off the street. Most of them on vacation. They come out to walk and see the Hollywood Walk of Fame and all that crap, right? So I'm down in San Diego. So I get up there, let's say I'm on Kimmel. That's an easy story for me to tell. Federal government on $100 a week per household. How are you going to pay for that? I would pay for it with a use tax, with a flat rate. Everyone understands what the rate is, kind of tax. No more of this income tax. That's what I would do if I was running for king. I'm not running for king. I'm running for president. So these things are aspirational. But I want you to know directionally where I would take things. Let me see if I can operate this piece. Oh, I see. Okay, so the moderators are feeding me questions here. So the moderators are moderating you people, and they're feeding me questions. So I have moderators I've never met, right? I've never met these moderators, and they alone are deciding what questions I see. How about that? The Libertarian Party, blah, blah, blah. Why is the government lying about the amount of people dying of COVID-19? Yeah, the government always lies. Why wouldn't they lie about that also? But here's the flip side of that. I'm scared of anybody that thinks they have all the answers right now. If you think you have all the answers, I mean, we have libertarians out there licking doorknobs to prove a point, and we have libertarians who think they can shoot the virus. The virus is a real thing. Isn't it true? See if you agree with me. Isn't it true that if there was no government, a lot of what is going on right now would be going on, right? Before this virus, it was my job to hang out at airports, get on airplanes, go to hotels, and make sure I shook every hand. So I took myself off the road and I self-isolated because I assumed I was radioactive. So I've been hanging out in this studio doing my best Ed Snowden impression, not talking to anybody, except, hey, here's a question for you. I'm pretty good at just talking to a camera, don't you think? I've been watching Colbert and Fallon and the professionals that get paid 8 figures a year to talk in front of her. I think I'm better at being alone in a room talking to a camera than they are, and that's why Mark Whitney, should be the Libertarian presidential nominee, because there's a good chance that this is how this is going to be for a while. It's going to take years for this to shake out, right? You'll be able to pick up a house for $100 at the end of this. That's an opportunity for some and a downside for others. How can we effectively end this duopoly and put the Libertarian Party into Congress? I like that question. That's from Joe Havas. Let me repeat that. How can we effectively end the duopoly and put the Libertarian Party into Congress? What can ordinary Americans do to make that change happen? So the way you get libertarians elected to Congress is you stop being stupid, right? You stop being politically irrelevant, and you separate your philosophical view of the world from the political view of the world. So philosophically, I wish that there was a model that someone could cite to me where there's just no government and everyone is just nice to each other all the time. So no government, but also no religious wars, the freedom to express yourself as you choose, freedom of the press, freedom to associate. All these things exist with no government. No one is able to cite to me an example of that ever being done. In fact, human history teaches that one of the things we like to fight most about is God. My God has a bigger dick than your God. Well, I say no. I say my God has the bigger dick. But yet then we fight about that, right? We have learned that in the last 20 years. We see these countries that are theocracies. And I remember Dick Cheney saying we would be greeted as liberators. Well, how did that work out, right? So I'm a big fan of the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, big fan of the Bill of Rights. It goes very nicely, the Bill of Rights, with the Libertarian Party platform, which cites the Bill of Rights several times expressly. The most important part of the Libertarian platform is the part that says the Constitution shall not be suspended even in wartime. But to answer your question, right, because I can talk, to answer your question directly, how do you get libertarians into Congress? You have to be politically relevant, right? You have to be politically relevant. So you don't start by saying, if I could push a button, I'd end Social Security. Social Security is the most popular program in the country, but there are government programs that people want to end, and they agree with libertarians at a rate of 75%. Everybody wants to end the war on trade, the war on terror, the war on drugs, those 3 wars, right? And as president, I can end war immediately. I'm the commander-in-chief. I can bring all the troops home. I can stop wasting money on that crap. That's trillions of dollars that get saved over 10 or 20 years. Trillions of dollars. And not so much saved because that money we don't have anyway. So we just stop spending that money we don't have. And the only reason you realize the last time one of your fellow citizens was killed on U.S. soil by a nation state, when was the last time? No, not 9/11. That was not a nation state. That was a criminal gang. When is the last time one of your fellow citizens was killed right here in these here United States on U.S. soil? War of 1812. The United States, very hard to attack. It's surrounded by two gigantic oceans. So, if missiles are inbound toward Cleveland, I'll fire up the military. We'll intercept those missiles. Otherwise, I don't want to see the Secretary of Defense. I just don't want to see him. I'm the only citizen to sue a president to end participation of U.S. armed forces in a foreign civil war. I, Mark Whitney, did that. Spent a bunch of my own money. When Barack Obama woke up one day and decided to unilaterally drop thousands of drone missiles over the course of 9 months on the nation of Libya. That's the Libyan civil war. That's not a civil war that we're involved in. So you don't attack countries that haven't attacked you. That's rule one. You don't inject yourself into civil wars of other countries. They've got to sort that stuff out. So you follow those two rules, you're good to go. And our fellow citizens agree with us on those things. They just need a thought leader to say it. So if you're running for Congress, you're running for the federal legislature, you're running for governor as a libertarian, be politically relevant, right? Save the extreme political philosophy for discussions on social media or with your fellow libertarians when you're sitting around with them, but be politically relevant, be in the room with the people. It's very important. What is your opinion on Michigan governor banning non-essential shopping, such as gardening to farm your... Well, the term non-essential by definition is very ambiguous. So let's just talk about winners and losers. Let's talk about winners and losers in general. The private sector has been the loser here. Private sector companies in the United States, most of which are mom and pop operations or one or two person operations. That's 80% of small business in the United States. 80% of private sector operations are just one or two person shops. And a lot of these folks have been ordered to close their business. In other words, they've been said you can't make money. So I say a lot of people are choosing between clean oxygen and money, virus-free oxygen and money. But on the flip side, they still have to comply with their fixed costs. They still have to pay rent. They still have to pay their insurance costs. They still have to comply with onerous local, federal, and state government regulations. So they have to do all the things they have to do when they're making money, but none of the things that they do to make money are they allowed to do. These things are forbidden. Governors and presidents do not have the authority to order you to close your business. So if I was a chief executive, if I was one of the 51 chief executives in this country at the federal or state level, I would be honest about that. I'd say, hey, I don't have the authority to tell you to do this, but we've put together a little set of guidelines here. I've got these good doctors and scientists here, and they say that this is a killer virus. They say that it's really contagious. They say that it's really deadly. And the fact of the matter is, I don't know if they're right. And if they're being honest with you, they don't even know how contagious or how deadly. It just looks really bad. It looks worse than the common cold. We don't even know if you can get it more than once. So you should take all that information and do what you want. The flip side of that, if you're going to run for president, you got to be able to look at multiple truths. My studio here in San Diego is directly across the road from Qualcomm, which is a big company. They got multiple buildings over there. They employ 40 or 50,000 people just here in San Diego. So how do you, as Qualcomm, you got people divvied up in these little cubes sitting on top of each other. The insurance liability alone is going to crush you if you bring people into work in this environment. You can't guarantee a reasonably safe work environment. People can get a deadly virus. So I say there are multiple truths involved here. Let me scroll down here and see what else we got. A governor in Connecticut, this is from Brian. Our governor in Connecticut just shut down our state until May 20th. Are we able to file an injunction against this illegal order? Of course, you can apply for an injunction against anything. And I would encourage you to do that if you feel you've got an argument, because that's what citizen activism is all about. First Amendment guarantees your right to seek redress of your grievances, right? So if you want to challenge the authority of the governor, that is how good law is made. Good citizens challenge the law, most laws are unconstitutional, and they just stay on the books unconstitutional until somebody decides to be the test case. Okay, it was the law. It was arbitrary from state to state for a long time as to whether you could, take 25 years ago, nobody in the United States could marry a consenting adult of the same sex, right? That could not be done 25 years ago in these here United States. It started in Vermont. There was the Vermont Supreme Court ordered the legislature, pursuant to the Vermont Constitution, to pass a law for the governor to sign that says if you are of the same sex in Vermont, you can do a civil union. So that started to spread out to a few states, but then in a lot of states, you still couldn't get a marriage license. So most libertarians are opposed to licenses, but in the real world, you have to get a marriage license. So a few years back, a couple of people got together, a couple of guys got together, they got denied a license, and they litigated all the way to Supreme Court. And the 14th Amendment, which is blind to gender, the 14th Amendment doesn't see colors of citizens, it doesn't see sexual preference of citizens, it sees only citizens. So today, because of those people applying for a better world, they got that granted, and today any adult can marry any adult. I say that's a big improvement. So that's why I say, of course, if we don't have citizen journalists and citizen litigators, then you have nothing but tyranny. How would you handle this Wuhan flu hoax? So I don't think that the virus is a hoax. That's nonsense. And that is an example of marginalizing yourself politically if you go to that extreme. If you're running for public office, you have to be able to articulate the multiple truths. If you're running for a high office like the federal legislature or president or governor, or even city council in a big city or mayor, you have to be able to articulate what you perceive to be the multiple truths. If you're one of these people that goes out in the face of what's happening right now and you start licking doorknobs, well, then you just marginalize yourself. Why doesn't a libertarian candidate tell their voters they won't take the health care provided by the physician, which is paid by theft? Okay, so paid by theft. So there is a thing. I have an opponent who literally, an opponent in this presidential race who literally changed his middle name to taxation is theft. Now that is true. That is true. When you put a gun to somebody's head and you say, give me your money, which is what government does at all levels when it imposes taxes, put a gun to your head, say, give me money, that is literally the definition of theft. But it's not enough to say taxation is theft. You have to say, again, multiple truths. Taxation is theft made legal, right? So I support repeal of the 16th Amendment. I think the 16th Amendment, which laid the groundwork for the IRS to exist in its current form and for the IRS to be legal, I think that's a terrible thing. I think the income tax is the worst idea ever for everybody, especially in a creative environment that the United States is. You know, the First Amendment creates an incredible sandbox. It invites us to create businesses, to create art, to engage in unfettered political speech, to use all of the authority that comes with the high office of citizen to try to make life here better. The income tax makes all of those things more difficult. So like I said, I favor cutting the budget of the government by 75%, eliminating the income tax. I don't know a lot of people outside the Libertarian Party that advocate that. You see people now and then around the margins talking about it, but I don't know anybody serious about it. It discourages growth. It makes markets less free because the tax code is used to force decisions on people. The IRS code is used to force people to buy real estate. I mean, if you get to a certain net worth and you're not buying real estate, you're an idiot because there are so many tax benefits to owning real estate. And the reason those tax benefits are there is because the people who make it, the banks who make money writing mortgages, all the people within the massive private sector that participate in real estate in the United States and benefit from the buying and selling of real estate, they're able to buy laws fair and square that encourage people to buy real estate. They encourage people to stay married or encourage people to get divorced, depending on what state you're in. So I don't like the idea of the IRS code creating Hobson's choice in our lives and forcing us to make decisions about how we use our money just because of the benefits in there. You should be free to use all the money that you can possibly keep and make your own decisions about money. and to learn about the problems and opportunities that come with being financially literate and financially illiterate. And I believe that if we were less dependent on the federal government, if the federal government was smaller, it would be easier for us to lobby our state legislatures and have the states behave, and we would have more of our money to start businesses and save and help others. That's what I believe. I think that's obvious. Any ideas how to reform our monetary system? Well, we libertarians talk about how to reform the monetary system a lot. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 is a pox on humanity. I think that the future is bright, however. I've been in tech since 1996. I've made almost all my money in tech, and I believe that Bitcoin is the future. I think Bitcoin is going to be the equivalent of the gold standard. I am hopeful that we can get to a world where we have one world currency and that people are able to trade and trade freely throughout the world without the recognition of borders, without the recognition of governments. And I hope that Bitcoin develops through open source. I don't like the idea of Mark Zuckerberg having de facto control over a large percentage of digital money. The only reason he's interested in that is so he can get a piece. And he's got relationships with tons of people in the world. I get why he wants to do that. I hope that's rejected. I hope people reject it in favor of open source. I think that that the government knows, that all governments know that their currency are risk with the development of digital money and the efficient distribution and the incredible entrepreneurial opportunities pursuant thereto. What else we got here? I don't know if I'm going to get to all these questions. I'm just rolling here like a nut. Nick, marathon start with a single step, righting the ship to go a better direction. Right. So Nick's thing in just is his question is that let me put it in my own words. Here's one of the big problems the Libertarian Party has made over the 48 years of not getting libertarians elected since 1972. Libertarians tend to jump to a conclusory statement. Taxation is theft. Get rid of Social Security. Get rid of this. Get rid of that. Just get rid of it. They don't tell you how. So you got to have critical mass. You have to have a lot of people join your party so you have better candidates. It takes critical mass to have one great candidate, right? So you want to have a great candidate in every state running for governor. You want to have great candidates in every district running for U.S. Congress, running for the House of Representatives, running for U.S. Senate. That's the goal, right? And the way you do that is to recognize that the situation we got in, you have to first recognize who the enemy is, right? The enemy is not the Bill of Rights. The bones are good, I like to say. The bones are good. But the enemy, the Republican and Democratic National Committee, over the course of years, they have been able to put some very meaty, chewy, hard-to-eat meat on the bones. The meat is not good. The bones are great. The meat is tough and chewy. It's got hair on it and mold and all kinds of crap. Nobody likes that meat. So you got to hack the meat off and get down to the bones so that we can feel the spirit of freedom and liberty and or some of the other words we libertarians like to use. Peace and prosperity. That's it. Freedom, liberty, peace, and prosperity. Went blank there for a minute. So the way you do that is hack the meat off. And the meat is the Democrats and Republicans. The product that comes out of these two national committees, they're really the same thing. The fact they got two colors and two different letters, DNR, blue and red, it is the same thing. It's the same thing. It's authoritarianism. It's more government. Our expectations now are being set for a more authoritarian government on the other side of this situation where nobody can go outside. I got a black market haircut yesterday. My hair was hanging down all over the place, and I found this woman on Facebook who worked for Avita for 8 years, and she's going around for $40 and she'll cut your hair, right? So she is afraid to cut my hair. So she doesn't give me her real name. I just have a number. It's probably a burner phone. She probably has a burner phone to cut hair. That's the environment we're living in right now, where everybody is really scared of the government. That presents opportunities for libertarians, but what we do a lot is we engage in acts of self-marginalization, right? I'm running against some people. I'm running against say, oh, you got to end these favorite programs and kill and end Social Security. Just end it, right? Don't pay the money to the people that paid in. Just end it. And most people hear that and they think grandmother's dying in the alley. That's what they think. So just keep pushing people away, and you'll continue to not have good political results. On the other hand, if you say, Social Security is really a raw deal. You pay money in, you can't leave it to your spouse. People can't inherit it. You'd be much better off if you were investing your money privately. If you don't, if we didn't have a federal system, and you still think there should be government systems, there could be 50 state systems together with private systems. You'd have more choice, or maybe you just decide that you want to just take your chances with your own money management, right? You want to learn about money. You want to be financially literate, right? I've been an entrepreneur for 40 years. The only company I lost was a company bankrolled by debt in my 20s. So I hate debt. I hate borrowing. I hate banks. And financial literacy, as a result of that adverse situation, became the thing that defined the culture of my family. So we learned how to manage our money right. We're not choosing between clean oxygen and money right now, although I think everyone's going to get killed before this is over financially. Thoughts on various drug laws. The war on drugs has always been a racist war since the Libertarian Party started in 1972, same year Nixon declared the war on drugs, which was really a war on blacks. It's institutionalized a criminal class. 1 in 3 African Americans has done prison time, and that's a horrible thing. The war on drugs is a pox on our society. It's unconstitutional. It has resulted in all Americans being suspect. If you're driving down the road and you happen to have $10,000 cash in your car, you are presumed to be a drug dealer. If you go to the bank and you deposit more than $10,000 cash, you are presumed to be a drug dealer. We have TSA because they see you carrying a bunch of cash. You're presumed to be a drug dealer. The burden of proof is on you to explain why you have this cash. Well, that's crazy, right? So the war on drugs also has instituted all sorts of zero tolerance policies that are just normalized in the United States. We live in zero tolerance America. We live in post-constitutional America. We see refugees and asylum seekers at the border coming up from Guatemala, walking 500 or 600 miles to get away from the criminal drug cartels that have taken over their nation, right? So that rich people in the United States can buy the drugs they want on the black market. So these refugees and asylum seekers are trying to save their children. That's why they present themselves at the southern border. And what does Trump and Obama do? They kidnap the children, throw them in old Walmarts, lock them in chicken coops in these Walmarts, and then people go, oh, this is awful. They don't have toothbrushes and soap. That's what Democrats say when they see that. No, it's awful that they're in the cages. Then they take the adults and they human traffic them into prisons that are owned by companies traded on Wall Street, private prisons. And that's literally the definition of trafficking, when you kidnap people and with no charges throw them in a cave and make them work for slave wages. These private prison companies that people like me, my people, invest in and make money off of, right, on the stock market, these private prison companies force these workers into indentured servitude. The workers that they kidnap from the border, the asylum seekers and refugee seekers, they do all the work to keep the prison going. What a deal, huh? Immediate policy change from one extreme to another can cause more harm than the existing bad policy change. What kind of stepping stones? Yeah, we kind of talked about incremental. I mean, a lot of these questions address the elephant in the room, which is why can't the Libertarian Party produce candidates who are more politically intelligent? Well, part of that is we don't have enough members, right? We need more people joining the party. But more people are not going to join the party if the party is defined by self-marginalizing statements where we fail to recognize that it took us a while to get where we are, and it's going to take a minute to get out of it, right? So I'm one of those people, right? I wish that we just lived in a world where everyone would be nice to each other. I wish we lived in a world where certain expectations were not institutionalized, and that we could just snap our finger, everyone could just do whatever they wanted every day and have all the money they needed and everything, right? That's not the world we live in. So we need good thought leaders who can articulate these multiple truths and try to paint the vista of a future that is better than what we're enduring now, this world of maximum government. Can you more thoroughly explain the Libertarian platform on immigration? Yeah, so the Libertarian Party platform on immigration. Libertarians don't like borders, okay? We don't like borders. And as I said, aspirationally, I'd like to live in a world where there were no borders, but we do have borders. I don't believe in, personally, I don't think there should be absolute open borders, but I think walls and cages are prehistoric. We don't need that, and I like to manage to the opportunity. We have been programmed through years. We've been programmed to think of people who present themselves, especially at the southern border, right? People who present themselves at the northern border have skin my color. We're not programmed to be scared of those people. We're programmed to be scared of people that have skin that is brown, skin that is black. People who present themselves at the southern border, we're programmed to fear. Trump has taken it another level and programmed people to fear Mexicans. I live in San Diego. Mexicans are awesome, right? There's nothing to fear from Mexicans. So look, these people, they get themselves to, I want to manage to the reward of these people who are seeking asylum and who are seeking refugees seeking asylum at the southern border, which is what 90% of these people are. I want to manage to the opportunity. So the opportunity is that these people are highly motivated and highly resourceful. We know that because they walked 500 miles from Guatemala pushing a stroller with 2 kids and $50, and they somehow made it to the southern border. So we should be job matching. They should be filling jobs that Americans don't want to do. They should have an opportunity to become citizens. We should partner with companies like Nike, make sure they have some new sneakers and some clothes, make sure they have an easy way to learn English. Now they know how to speak at least 2 languages, which is more than most Americans can say, and take advantage of these. It's only a small percentage of people from countries like Guatemala that are making it to the southern border. As I said, highly motivated, highly resourceful. I want all these people working on my campaign, for real. Outstanding initiative and resourcefulness. What else? How do you join the party? There's actually a contest going on right now. If you go to lp.org, you can there's a contest. You can drill down to the Mark Whitney link, and if you join the party, I get credit for it. So you can pay if you want to. You can pay the national party $25 a month, and if you want, you can join the party in your state. If you want to just register Libertarian and vote Libertarian, you can do that. Go to lp.org and do a Control F, do a find function, type in platform, and print out the 8-page platform. And if you know anything about the Bill of Rights, I think when you read that platform, you're going to agree with me that the Libertarian Party platform reads a lot like the Bill of Rights. Are you a fan of the Mises Institute? I'm a fan of not spending money you don't have. That's what I'm a fan of. Did Mises ever get a customer, by the way? I think people are a little fetishy about Mises. I think that there is a philosophy associated around Mises that is attractive. It's a free market philosophy. I certainly share that as an entrepreneur. But again, there's a lot of philosophy involved around the Mises Institute. Whenever I ask someone to send me a link to a nation state that has embraced the Austrian School of Economics, people are not able to do that. So I think it makes for great discussion, great inspiration, and that's what I think of Mises, right? I don't have a shelf full of Mises books. I have libertarian friends who do, and we need all of these libertarians. We need libertarians who are fanatical about sound economics. We need libertarians who are fanatical about absolute unfettered political speech, absolute right to go to church, not go to church, practice any religion you want, or start your own religion. I remember being raised Catholic as an altar boy. I was an altar boy for 6 or 7 years, never molested by a priest. I don't know what was wrong with me, but that's not why I called. I remember being like in the 4th and 5th grade, looking up at the altar, and the corporate logo for the Catholic Church is a guy nailed to 2 2x4s. I thought to myself, I remember thinking to myself, that's kind of creepy, right? So I still think it's kind of creepy. And so I'm like, if you can sell that, if that can become normalized, right? I guess you start any religion. I would point out that for all the complaints we have about the government, the First Amendment has been really. When's the last time you looked out the window and saw Jews and Muslims going to battle in the United States, right? And nobody is forcing you to join, any particular private organization. Nobody's forcing you to work for somebody you don't want to work for. Nobody is forcing you to express yourself against your will. So we have some infrastructure in this country that, despite all the problems, really works well. We have all citizens of the United States have been witness to countries where the lack of the fundamental First Amendment freedoms we enjoy here has just resulted in countries who don't have the pillars in place to be able to function at all. So I'm one of these people who is an absolutist, when it comes to the First and Second Amendment because they're written in absolute terms. I want the Bill of Rights to be stronger. I say I'm running for president to return authority to the highest office in the land, which is the office of citizen. So I'm somebody who in my life as a high school education has defeated the Department of Justice 3 times in federal court. And that's the largest law firm in the world. They got like 40 or 50,000 lawyers. I've sued a president. I'm running for president. We, the people, we citizens have all the power. I think we need a constitutional amendment to make the Constitution easier to amend. That's what I think. I say that to a lot of libertarians. They say, I don't want to do that. I'm afraid of losing my Second Amendment rights. So that's fine. You can make that choice, but it kind of calls your bluff on where your priorities are. So libertarians love the Second Amendment. They love the right to bear arms. They hate the 16th Amendment. They hate paying taxes. But if I say constitutional amendment to get rid of the IRS, the answer I get is, you know what? We'd rather pay the taxes than keep our guns. That's a choice that libertarians make, and they make these choices to endure all of these indignities they complain about in favor of not putting their Second Amendment rights at risk. But I believe when you take a collection of citizens and you put them in a room in a serious environment, that they get really serious and they make good decisions. And I trust the people to make the right decisions, not politicians. What are your first couple of steps if elected? Well, if elected, the first step is to hire private security because they're going to be trying to kill me, right? And that's actually a legitimate concern for the first libertarian president-elect. But once I'm inaugurated, right? If I get elected, if I get elected as president, there's this period of time that goes by, and then you take the oath of office. So I think I still have to have private security because you're not going to be able to trust the risk management industrial complex to protect the first libertarian president. Here's why. The thing I've campaigned on, people say, how are you going to be effective as a libertarian president? Well, as it turns out, you, the people, have delegated to me, your first libertarian president, the unilateral, unchecked, unreviewable authority to declassify state secrets. So a few years back, Julian Assange dumped a tranche of documents on Wikipedia. One of them was a transcript of Henry Kissinger at a bad chicken dinner talking to his fellow diplomats in some country we've never heard of. And Kissinger said this, and mind you, this is a quote, and mind you, he was bragging. Kissinger got up and said, this is Richard Nixon, Secretary of State. Kissinger's still out there. He's like 180 or something. He's still spouting his ideas. He says, Secretary of State says, the illegal we do right away, the unconstitutional takes a little more time. He was bragging. So we know from people like Ed Snowden, right? We know from Ed Snowden that the United States was illegally and unconstitutionally in violation of the Fourth Amendment right to privacy and all sorts of Fourth Amendment problems, collecting all of our data and warehousing it. They're still doing it. But the real story of Ed Snowden is what one citizen can do. Ed Snowden is a high school graduate, worked for a private defense contractor, took an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Fourth Amendment. He did just that. But here's what he did. He embarrassed the entire risk management industrial complex. He embarrassed the entire intelligence community, which is a conglomerate of 17 government agencies. He embarrassed them completely when he walked out the door as a high school graduate with all their biggest secrets, right? So that exposed the intelligence community for being an absolute fraud. And then what we learned from what Ed Snowden gave to the reporter Glenn Greenwald, we learned that they were engaged in all sorts of illegal and unconstitutional behavior, just like Henry Kissinger promised. What's my point? My point is you take all this anti-Christian crap that we know the government does, all the unconstitutional behavior we know the Democrats and Republicans engage in. Imagine what we don't know. Imagine what the first libertarian president's team can uncover. And imagine the brickbat, the right libertarian president, that would be me, has to hold over these mobsters in Congress to get them to behave. The other thing libertarian president gets to do is appoint federal judges. We've got about 830 federal judges in the United States. A libertarian president over the course of 4 years would get to replace about 25% of them due to retirement and death and so forth. So if you have a libertarian federal judge in your district, ballot laws are now unconstitutional. Gerrymandering is now unconstitutional. All sorts of conduct has been declared constitutional by Democrat and Republican judges, is now unconstitutional. Libertarian federal judge sees the stuff Ed Snowden revealed. You kidding me? There are going to be people getting prosecuted. It's a whole different world. So a libertarian president solves a lot of problems, but you got to have the right one. You can't have someone who's agreeable and obsequious. You got to have somebody like me who's just wired for the fight every day. I just want to get up every day and piss off Democrats or Republicans. That's basically what I want to do. I like that as a way to live my life. And I would run for re-election just on that basis only, so I could do it for 8 years. Look at all these hearts falling up, right? You could pick your vice president. Who would it be? How can you trust the sheeple? Yeah, you know what? How can you trust the sheeple? You know what I try to do? I try to listen to understand why people think what they think and try to understand why they are who they are. Everybody has a story to tell. I have a great story to tell. Watch my memoir, Fool for a Client. You'll see that story. I want to use that story to sell myself to the big media. I think when people see my libertarian life story, they're going to be thinking Pulitzer Prize, a lot of these Wall Street traded media journalists. That's what I think. How can you trust the sheeple? The sheeple are not the problem. The people are not the problem. Most people are just on a treadmill trying to survive, and that is true. You know, even for households that are bringing in $125,000, $150,000 a year. By the time they're done paying taxes and they have a couple of cars and they saving to send their kids to college, borrowing money to send their kids to college, they literally are. You know, they're literally just making ends meet. And then, you know, we have a lot of people who are raised in homes with a single parent. A lot of people who are just poor. I trust the people. I trust the common sense of people. I believe that right now, given the science and the media knowledge that we have, I believe that if there was no government, a lot of us would be doing the same thing we're doing right now. We'd be self-isolating because, you know, we wouldn't be going down to the senior center to help people with jigsaw puzzles, would we? We'd stay away from them because we know they're vulnerable. And we wouldn't want to be making other people sick. So just as moral people, as non-aggressive people, we'd be doing a lot of the same things we're doing now. When you make these things a mandate, it pisses people off. And it distracts people from the issue at hand. But there is some beauty in what's going on right now. I mean, there is a worldwide timeout where we do have the opportunity to think about our common humanity. There is not so much talk about. There's not so much talk about. There's not so much focus on. We have this disproportionate focus on elections in the United States. When we focus on upcoming elections, we're not focusing appropriately on what's going on right now. The federal election cycle for president in the United States should be about 2 months. It shouldn't be 2 years. The only reason it is 2 years is because the Democrats and Republicans get a commission for all the advertising on these presidential debates, and it's a fundraising thing. The presidential campaign is a way to raise money for these private political parties. That's what it is. Same thing in governor races in big states and U.S. Senate and U.S. House of Representatives races. They go on for a year, 18 months, 2 years sometimes. And all this money gets raised and wasted, and it keeps our eye off the ball. We're always focusing on trying to elect the next politician, and that keeps us people, that keeps us citizens from focusing on what's being done now, and that's a bad thing. How long? Let's see. Hang on. How long have you been part of the Libertarian Party? I first got involved officially with the party in the mid '90s. I first ran for office in '96 in Vermont in a county race. I got so much publicity. I got 50% more votes in my little county race for state senate than the popular Libertarian presidential candidate Harry Brown got in the whole state of Vermont. I've been on the executive committee in Vermont, in San Diego County, the California executive committee for the state, as well as the Libertarian National Committee at-large member for a hot minute. But I've been spending a lot of time lately because I'm at a station in my life. I turn 61 next month, so I'm 60. My 20s, I spent my 20s violating the first rule of holes, which is when you're in a hole, stop digging. I spent my 30s digging out. I spent my 40s rebuilding. I spent my 50s killing it. And so I'm just available to stir things up in my 60s and try to help make this party politically relevant so people start getting elected. Everything about the Libertarian Party is great in terms of the back end. In a normal presidential election year, we have ballot access in all 50 states. So as it applies to the office of the president, when there's not a virus, the United States already is a three-party system. And I'm one of these people that thinks we ought to stop using the term third party, and just wherever we have ballot access, understand that our legal status, and our practical status is identical to Democrats and Republicans. We're not a third party when we have in those instances where we have identical ballot access, but we act like a third party. We act that way. So it's a mindset problem, right? If you have the mindset of a winner, you're more likely to win. It is 6:50. Yeah, so I'm going to start to wrap up here. I just want to tell you, this has been a real pleasure. I question you people being here on a Friday night. You don't have something better to do than to listen to me run my mouth. But that said, I'm glad you stopped by. So I am Mark Whitney, Libertarian for President. I don't know if the Libertarian Party is going to have a convention this year. We don't know what's going to happen. Our national convention is scheduled for the end of May in Austin, Texas. I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. What will happen is anybody's guess. But I have a job to do, which is to obnoxiously run for president and impose myself on you and try to amplify my own voice in a world where a lot of people are choosing between virus-free oxygen and money. I'm a little uncomfortable with that role right now, but I'm doing it because I don't know where it's going to land. If there is a convention, I want to be the nominee. I believe that I am the best candidate running for president in any party, that I have the ability to get attention for the party and to draw in a lot of Democrats or Republicans. I've spent the last 15 years of my life in stand-up comedy clubs and touring independent theater festivals around North America. Most of my time over those years is spent talking not to libertarians, but to people who are not libertarians, Democrats, Republicans, and independents in big cities, theater people, right? And a lot of these theater people, especially when I perform in Washington, D.C., they come down from the Department of Justice. They see my show Fool for a Client, and they listen to how I got my term of imprisonment declared unconstitutional as a high school graduate working from a prison law library. And I talk about the principles in the Bill of Rights and in the Libertarian Party platform. At the end of 84 minutes, they're on their feet cheering my libertarian life story. So I believe if I am the nominee of this party for president, that America is going to cheer my libertarian life story, that I can get on late night and do 5 minutes of Chappelle-level stand-up, and I have the potential to become an A-list celebrity for 4 or 5 months. That could actually happen. And if that does happen, a lot of money comes in, and that provides an opportunity to spread the money around in the party, recruit more activists and candidates, and build the party up, and over the course of time, become a lot more politically relevant than the party is now. So that is my plan, is to help build this party. That's why I'm here. This guy says, Aaron says, I've never voted before, but I will now. Well, that is a nice positive note to end on, Aaron. And I say that because I am hardwired for positivity. I'm hardwired for optimism. If you go to markwhitney.com, you click on Memoir and watch Fool for a Client, you will see that I am the guy who finds opportunity in adversity. And I am confident that there's much more opportunity in this adversity that we're experiencing right now than there is downside. The question is, will you in your own life be open to discovering that opportunity? Don't let the people get you down. Stay focused on the opportunity. I've said in my live show, if you're not doing it now, keep a daily journal. Keep a daily journal for 15 minutes a day of your opinions and the way you feel now. You'll look back on that, and it will inform a lot of what you do afterwards. Think about starting a little service business if you need money. Knock on your neighbor's door, stand 6 feet back, have a mask, and if you know how to cut hair, do some black market haircuts. If you don't, do some black market lawn mowing. Figure out ways to generate income for yourself. You may discover your hidden entrepreneur. Owning a small business in the United States, for all of the compliance we have to do, it's still a great lifestyle. You can build a little business up to doing $1 million a year and pull $100,000 or $200,000 a year net out of it. That's a great way to live. It's a great way to live. So Mark at markwhitney.com is my email address. Feel free to email me. If you email me, I will write back, Mark at markwhitney.com. Markwhitney.com is the domain, and most of the drama in the Libertarian Party presidential race for 2020 plays out on Facebook, so you can connect to Facebook and so forth. So thanks for stopping by, folks. And we will talk to you again. I do a live show 2 or 3 times a week called Live at 5. And on Thursday, the 23rd of this month, I'm going to premiere a live weekly series called Libertarian Lens, which will be highly produced. I hope that it is a John Oliver level quality show using all the multimedia tools we have access to in our world, all of which I have access to here in my beautiful studio in San Diego. So we'll talk to you again, and markwhitney.com is the hub. And thanks for joining us here tonight on Ask Me Anything, Ask a Libertarian, Ask Me Anything, whatever the hell this just was. It was a lot of fun. Thanks a lot.